Good morning, class. Happy Monday. Today is April 20. Learning target for today is to describe something called the Constitutional Convention, which was the event that helped create the Constitution that we use today. Our agenda, go back here one. First, there is a multiple choice bell ringer question on Google Classroom that I need you to answer, so feel free to pause the video right now if you want to answer it. It's just a multiple choice question, won't take you long. It's just for review, just to see what you remember from last week. After that, we will be taking some notes on how the Constitution's actually created. It's not the origins of it, but the actual creation. So get ready for that. And then your homework is going to be to finish the Federalist Debate Source Summary. It says here that it's due today at 3 p.m. I am changing my mind. And I will make it instead due tomorrow, 10 a.m. So this is due tomorrow, 10 a.m., not today, 3 p.m., and I will make sure that is reflected on Google Classroom. So first thing, bell ringer question, which is not one of the main weaknesses of the Articles of Confederation. So which one of the statements that you'll see is not a weakness the Articles of Confederation had? Remember, the Articles was the first plan of government the United States had. So answer that first. Pause the video if you need to. Won't take very long. What I would then like to do is talk about the basics of the Constitutional Convention, what it is, how it happened, who was there, etc. I don't need you to take notes on this. This is just some of the things that they had to figure out at this convention. One, they just got done with the Revolutionary War, and they are in much debt, $40 million. Today, that seems like nothing. Back then, that was a lot of money, especially for a new country that had a very weak economy. Second, if we abandon the Articles, then what powers should the national government have? It's clear that they need a stronger government, but you still don't want to give the government too much power where it can become abusive. You got to find that balance. 3 is who is going to make the laws and how does the lawmaking process work? At this moment, there's 13 states, but there's plenty of room and land to add more. So if they do add more, what's the process look like for that? Do we keep slavery? What role do slaves play in government? Once again, I'm talking about issues back in 1787, not today. But slavery was commonplace in the United States back then. So do we keep it? If so, how do we incorporate slaves into the country? What role do they play in government, if any at all? How are we going to ratify the Constitution and convince Americans to accept it? So this convention is behind closed doors. It's private. Nobody else besides the people at the convention know about it. So once it's finished and the plan is created, how are you going to make sure that all the states will agree to it, accept it, ratify it, which means you have to convince the people that it's a good idea compared to the Articles. And then who is going to lead the country? What do we call this person? What powers do we give him or her? What type of leader do we want to have? Okay, so here's where I need you to take notes for the what. We're talking about the Constitutional Convention. This is a meeting. It is held between the months of May and September in the year 1787. So this is 11 years after the Declaration of Independence. This is after Shays' Rebellion, when they realized that the plan they currently have under the Articles is not going to work. Where is this happening? At the Philadelphia State House. Why Philadelphia? One, it's in a somewhat central location, although not the most central location. More importantly, the reason why they held it in Philadelphia is because they wanted a specific person, Benjamin Franklin, to be present. He lived only a couple blocks away from the State House. He was pretty old. Trying to hold this convention elsewhere meant there was a good chance you won't have probably the greatest diplomat you had at the time, Benjamin Franklin. At the very least, somebody who had experience. Right? He helped negotiate the treaty after the Revolutionary War. For the who, we have a total of 55 delegates present at the convention. However, not all 55 are there at the same time. On average per day between May and September, there's going to be 40. The reason why some people weren't present is because they sometimes had to go back to their state and deal with state affairs, and they couldn't do that from Philadelphia. It's not like today where you can deal with anything anywhere. You have to be in your state to deal with things. Slow snail mail's not going to cut it. So these 55 delegates are lawmakers, government officials, important people from each of the 13 states. States send a different amount of people, average of 40 per day. Here's how the proceedings take place between the months of May and September. They hold the sessions and meetings privately. They make sure the windows are closed and blocked, the doors are locked. They want to keep everything they discuss brand new and private. These meetings are held from 10 to 4, 6 days a week. The one day you won't have it is on Sunday, so people can go to church. For the voting procedure, anytime somebody comes up with a proposal, you got to vote to accept it or reject it. The voting procedure was that each state would get one vote. So if a state has 5 delegates, those 5 delegates have to come to an agreement whether to say yes or no, which can be tricky depending on the state. Why did they have this? I want to make this very clear, so please underline this or just take careful note. The purpose of this convention originally, at first, was not to create a new plan of government. Right? The idea was not to create a separate plan called the Constitution. Originally, the plan for these delegates was to take the Articles of Confederation and simply revise them, improve them, change them, and fix them to make them better. What ends up happening is James Madison, who is known as the father of the Constitution, decides and proposes the idea that instead of fixing the old, let's just start over brand new. And he actually had that idea before the convention even started. So here is your homework. Once again, I am changing this to be due what it says here tomorrow, 10 a.m., not today. What you need to do is read the primary sources. One is from John Jay, one is from Elbridge Gerry, just to give you some background information. John Jay was one of the delegates at the Constitutional Convention representing the state of Virginia. Elbridge Gerry is one of the delegates as well at the Constitutional Convention representing the state of Massachusetts. What you need to do is summarize each person's main point and their supporting key ideas. I'm going to ask that you use bullet points. I'm going to ask you use your own words and provide very detailed and clear ideas, not just 1 or 2 ideas for each. It needs to be detailed. This is going to be a homework grade. It's going to be worth 10 points just to show you what this looks like. Here's the PDF. Okay. I think I said Virginia for John Jay. It was New York. My apologies. So this is his letter to the people of New York. This is after the Constitutional Convention. This is when the delegates are trying to convince the people of their respective states to either approve the Constitution or to reject the Constitution. So they're either going to ratify it and say yes, or they're going to reject it and say no. So this is John Jay, delegate at the Constitutional Convention, going back to the people of New York and explaining what he thinks about it and what they should do. If you keep scrolling down, Elbridge Gerry is from Massachusetts. This is his plea to his people after the convention, whether to yes, approve the Constitution, or no, to reject it. What's happening right now in history is different states are signing the Constitution and either saying yes, we want this, or no, we don't. So don't just tell me if each person here says yes or no, but explain key reasons why they think the way they do. Hopefully, you can come up with at least 3 key reasons for each person's point of view. Real quick, I'll go back. All you need to do is put that on this Google Doc. One side says John Jay, the other one says Elbridge Gerry. I would prefer you use bullet points. I think that'll be easier. So one bullet point is their main claim. Yes, they support the Constitution. No, they don't. Then other bullet points below it are going to be the main reasons why they think the way they do, why they say yes, why they say no. Key, I put this in all capital letters, is making sure you use your own words. If you have questions, please let me know. Otherwise, good luck with the work, and I will talk to you more tomorrow.